Here we go. So we're winding down with our teaching of the Eightfold Path, and I'm going to talk about when the Eightfold Path becomes tried and true. So in reflective meditation, as many of you know, we advocate for choice and experimentation in the way we practice. In the instructions we give ourselves, they change over time. We start with one thing, we follow another. And we see this as onward leading, and I'm adding inward leading, and actually outward leading. It really affects our actions within the world. Again, that's part of the path. And we write in our book that this is at times counterintuitive. And counterintuitive as in, this doesn't always happen the way you expect it to. So in writing my Dharma talk this morning, and this is a part of my practice, it's become a big part of the way I meditate, think about the Dharma, and then try to put it into words and then speak it to you. I tend to write a few bullet points at night, kind of a skeleton, and then I sleep on it. And it kind of works on me subliminally. And last night it turned into insomnia, full-blown insomnia. So I woke up this morning and I said, I'm going to throw the whole darn thing out. But because of the topic today, choice and experimentation, I actually thought, I have a little different choice today. Why don't I experiment with something by seeing what could I bring in from that night? And from what that work was, because it felt like I was doing some work. So my summary statement of my last night is, it was being with anger. And it was just jumping around my body, my mind. It gave me a lot of energy to look into more things, and I was journaling. A big part of it was anger at the state of the world and the things I'm hearing and the way power is being used. But it also went into the things I'm avoiding, my own power, and also petty grievances were in there, things that I hadn't thought about before, but just were angry at. It was like a big jumble. And at night, experiences like this can have a feeling of being out of control. Like, we got to manage this, got to keep this in. So I was surprised this morning when it felt like a storm had passed. It was like they were just kind of gone. And it left me empty with not many words. And here I am having to speak with you this morning. So that wasn't a great feeling at 7 a.m. But what I started to do, I looked up the word counterintuitive. I just liked that word. And I found this. It may seem counterintuitive, but we do burn calories when we are sleeping. I thought, okay, I burned a lot of calories last night. So it kind of lightened my mood. And I started to go into being interested in a question. And this emerged from this jumble is, when difficult experiences come and then they go, do we need to look back at them, to reflect on them, to understand them? Do we need to give them more airtime and do some analysis? Or should we just enjoy the feeling of them being gone and a relief and just move on? And then I went into the four-cornered argument, or should we do both of these things, or neither of them? So what came from it was, I really know my tendencies in this situation. But in advocating for choice and experimentation, I went to the direction of trying something a little bit out of my range, stretching a little bit, really looking at what could feel risky or scary about doing something out of my tendency, out of my norm, and thinking that those tendencies actually keep things in place, keep my self structures in place, so I don't have to feel so much risk. And I actually think I'm going to get similar results each time I follow a certain tendency. So choice and experimentation kind of interrupts that kind of way things would normally go in my mind. And what I got to this morning was that it really creates more space inside of me. And it's kind of like a chiropractic adjustment where you have a little bit more space in between your vertebrae. Or what my singing teacher says, open your mouth wider and more sound will come out when you sing. If you do that, this will happen. It's not my tendency to do that. So it may feel, oh, Wendy, I can see you practicing. That's funny. We share singing, a love of singing. But it may feel counterintuitive to go against your tendencies and to try something new in your meditation practice or in your life or in your inner processing with your thoughts and feelings. And this takes quite a bit of time and effort to kind of encourage, to risk, to practice this. And it does become tried and true. This is how something actually starts to take hold and become trustworthy, is you've tried something different. It worked, it didn't work. Need to adjust that a little bit more. But it does become your own path, and it becomes something that opens up for you and emerges. The conditions of change can emerge. I kind of like that statement. But how do we know this? Does it come from practice and experience? How can I kind of state that this morning? Can I promise it will happen for you? The Buddha couldn't even promise that. That's not something that we can say will happen. But it does most likely, and I've seen it happen again and again. And it is something that I can stand on, and it gives me enough, let's say, unshakable faith in a practice and where it leads. I might not know where, but it does keep happening, even on nights of anger jumping around everywhere. Okay, I'm going to end here. We will meditate.